Welcome to our journey through the untamed and rugged landscapes of America's Wild West. In the 19th century, an epic chapter of American history unfolded as thousands of pioneers from New England embarked on a daring expedition to conquer the vast and challenging western frontier. In this video, we'll delve into the gripping story of their westward expansion, as these intrepid souls braved the unknown, encountered new cultures, and left an indelible mark on the American landscape. Join us as we explore the untamed beauty, the harsh challenges, and the indomitable spirit that characterized the path to the Pacific Ocean. But before we get started, if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on our captivating content. Now, let's jump right into it. In 1783, when the North American British colonies won their independence and formed the United States, almost all the life of the European colonists was still centered on the continent's east coast, where seaports provided them with connections to the world. From the founding of the first English colony in 1607, Jamestown in Virginia, 2 centuries passed before the rapid expansion westward into Native American lands began. By the 18th century, the eyes of colonists increasingly turned westward, deep into North America, to the uninhabited and dangerous but promising lands occupied by the natives. Fur hunters and traders traveled there, but there were no plans to explore the vast expanses. In 1804, the government organized an expedition to find a river route to the Pacific Ocean. It was led by Captain Meriwether Lewis and Lieutenant Clark. They were the first to cross the continent from east to west by land and successfully returned in 1806 to St. Louis, from where they started their campaign. Others followed them westward in search of new routes and lands. Thus began the conquest of the Wild West, which lasted a century. Gradually, settlers developed North and South Dakota, Montana and Colorado, Wyoming and Nebraska, Kansas and Oregon, and, after the Mexican-American War, California, New Mexico, and Texas. The colonizers moved in long caravans of loaded wagons drawn by horses or oxen west from the Mississippi River to the Great Plains and beyond, along river valleys and Indian trails. One by one, villages sprang up, which then became towns. The main historic trails were the California Trail, the Oregon Trail, the Mormon Trail, and the Santa Fe Trail. This movement became a key factor in American history. By continually expanding their holdings, white settlers overcame environmental and Indian resistance and pushed back the frontier, the moving boundary separating lands under U.S. influence from lands in the West that were considered free. In this way, Americans gradually reached the Pacific Ocean and founded Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, and other cities on the coast, without which it is impossible to imagine America today. Here is how historian Frederick J. Turner, a classic of American historiography, wrote about it: the Bison Trail turned into an Indian trail that became a beaten path of a trader. Roads were built on the place of trails, they grew to highways, which, in their turn, turned into railroads. Trading factories were located on the sites of Indian settlements, the position of which was chosen according to the prompting of nature. These factories, so located as to control the water systems of the country, grew into such cities as Albany, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Chicago, St. Louis, Counties Bluffs, and Kansas City. Civilization in America flowed along arteries born of geology, until finally the little-noticed paths that the natives used to communicate with each other were extended and connected into the complex networks of modern commercial systems. Of course, the lands settled by hundreds of thousands of colonizers were not free. Native Americans had lived there for thousands of years. For the most part, the Indians offered little resistance. The settlers brought with them valuable goods, primarily guns. Very often the tribes did not realize the threat posed to them by the palefaces, and quickly fell into dependence on them. Then divide et impera. Only when the colonizers were already firmly established, robbed and drove the Indians from their native lands, they gave a tangible response. Yet the aliens invariably emerged victorious, even if they suffered a localized defeat, as at Little Bighorn in 1876, or if they were opposed by the legendary Geronimo. Eventually the surviving Redskins were driven to reservations. The Wild West was surrendered to the colonists. Vast areas were divided into states, which one by one joined the Union. The resettlement of Americans to the vast lands of the West was truly massive, and their development was rapid. Becoming a farmer on the ever-distant frontier, where land is worth virtually nothing but is guaranteed to increase in value many times over with the arrival of new settlers in a few years, was the dream of many poor people in the United States in the 19th century. The driving social force behind colonization was poor farmers. They moved in waves. First came the pioneers to the bare virgin land. Farmers and hunters came in families. Their wagons were equipped with the most necessities: small stoves, seedlings and seeds, saws and axes, shovels and plows, knives and scythes, chickens, dishes, clothes, guns. Proletarians and adventurers of all kinds, prospectors, for example, and hunters of fur-bearing animals or buffalo, whose hides were also highly valued, also moved in. Wealthy farmers who could buy the most attractive fields and pay for road construction followed them. Then it was the turn of the capitalists, and the newly wilderness became industrialized. Villages turned into towns. And so wave after wave. Many farmers, after selling their land, would sell it 10 years later and move a few hundred miles west again, with the money and resources to build a richer farm on the fertile virgin land. The process of colonization of the West played a huge role in the formation of the American state, and it is not just about the increase in developed territory. F. Turner was the first to formulate the concept of the frontier as a key factor in the history of the United States and the formation of the spirit and mythology of the American people. The movement of settlers towards the Pacific Ocean became a safety valve. It allowed reducing social tension and developing for decades without social upheaval. People who could not make their fortunes on the East Coast went to try their luck in the West, wild but free. First the frontier traversed the Alleghenies, then the Great Plains and the Rocky Mountains. By the beginning of the 20th century, it finally stopped moving, hitting its geographic limit: the Pacific coast. It is believed, however, that the frontier did not cease to exert its influence at this point. More than a century of movement to the West had shaped the inherent American mentality of belief in the ability of everyone to overcome any obstacle in the pursuit of happiness, as well as the willingness to relocate, change careers, and start from scratch. Finally, the exploration of the West weakened the United States' dependence on Europe, and the myth of the frontier still fuels the American spirit of expansion. History is more interesting than you think. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Let's explore the mysteries of history together.